Welcome to LFN News, a production of LFN Media, bringing you the latest in celebrity news, with specific analysis to keep you in the know of what is going on around you. Some were taken by surprise when news hit the airwaves that R. Kelly had been found not guilty on 7 counts in his just concluded Chicago trial. More than half of the 13 counts charges against him in his indictment. Well, for many, especially those that had been following the trial closely, this did not come as a surprise at all. The good news about this, however, is that since the 7 counts in question include that of obstruction of justice and conspiracy, which was birthed by the 2008 trial, then this surely validates his 2008 acquittal plus all the facts and evidence shared in that case. This basically means his lawyers could leverage the same for his upcoming appeals. In fact, if anything came as a surprise, it was the fact that the jury still managed to find Mr. Kelly guilty on the other 6 counts that were related to the alleged tapes. The good news here, though, is that these other 6 counts are lesser charges that will easily be won in an appeal. Majorly because they depend all their facts on the alleged videotapes, whose authenticity has not been verified by experts following Judge Harry's denial to have forensic experts examine the tapes and testify about their authenticity. Although newer tapes were supposedly introduced in this trial, the fact that forensics had examined the tapes used in the 2008 trial and found them not genuine, provides a very solid ground for contestation of the ruling on these counts related to the tapes. There would be no confirmation whatsoever that these newly introduced tapes could not have as well been fabricated unless forensics inspect them and prove otherwise. But we all know why Judge Harry Leinenweber would not let any forensics team near them. We could very well equally argue that R. Kelly won against a life sentence in this Chicago trial as well, since these critical 7 counts that he won carry the worst convictions of up to 60 years, which would be more like a life sentence for the 55-year-old R&B king. As anticipated, however, the Chicago trial was not short of surprises. It became apparent early on in the trial that we were bound to see a deep level of prejudice in this trial, when presiding Judge Harry Leinenweber started off by rejecting most of R. Kelly's pretrial submissions that were evidently valid and needed consideration. That, however, did not derail the R. Kelly legal team. It stood its ground on calling out prejudice throughout the trial, and insisted on influencing the jury selection criteria as well, insisting that potential jurors who had watched the infamous Surviving R. Kelly be excused from the jury. Although some jurors, who had watched only part of the Lifetime documentary series, that the trials had exposed to have been a mere scam intended to defame the R&B king, actually made it to the jury, the overall jury composition was much fairer than what we saw in New York. Many R. Kelly fans have actually gone on to suggest that R. Kelly should sue Lifetime for their unfair and unlawful acts, parading women who had had any form of encounter with R. Kelly whatsoever that they felt was newsworthy, to make all sorts of unfounded allegations against the I Believe I Can Fly hitmaker, in an effort to defame him. Prejudice continued to show off along the trial when it was discovered that the prosecution's key witnesses were actually testifying under immunity deals that would exonerate them from conviction for evident crimes, including changing statements under oath. How does that even work? Well, the immunity deals that the feds engaged in with the key witnesses simply meant they had been handed a license to lie. It's no wonder that none was even bothered to even keep their stories straight all through their dramatic testimonies. The most drama, however, was from Lisa Van Allen's testimony, where she attempted to insinuate that she was 16 when she first met R. Kelly, yet all facts of her testimony revealed she was actually 17, and she was not sorry about it. Lisa was also not shy to confess to extorting R. Kelly of $250,000 in exchange for an alleged tape she claimed she had stolen from Kelly when he supposedly left his belongings unattended. In fact, due to her immunity deal, she needed not worry an ounce about her open lies on the stand, as she was still covered by the deal. We must confess, the Chicago trial was the first of a kind in trial history. A trial where testimonies could be easily and conveniently edited throughout the trial period with no form of remorse and no implication whatsoever. This is exactly what R. Kelly was up against. What has become of our judicial system? Absurd. But of course, it was evident that the jury would see through most of these unfounded allegations and the lack of concrete, incriminating evidence thereof against the ignition hitmaker. This meant that if the jury was to remain objective and impartial throughout the trial, R. Kelly was bound to see a sure win in Chicago, at least on most of the counts of his indictment. McDavid's testimony, however, that came in much later along the trial could easily have been the biggest trial mistake in trial history ever. McDavid was clearly already in the clear, even before his infamous testimony that did nothing more than try to tarnish the name that R. Kelly and his legal team had steadily built throughout the 4-week trial. Why he felt compelled to take the stand in his own defense, even though that is the last thing any experienced attorney would recommend to any defendant, especially in such controversial cases, one can only wonder. It is very likely, however, that he felt he could further affirm his plea of innocence by pulling off such a theatrical performance on the stand intended to solicit solace from the jury, at the heavy expense of R. Kelly's reputation. It is no wonder R. Kelly went on to lose on some of the counts of his indictment. All that aside, however, R. Kelly's Chicago wins are already a step in the right direction that is gravely owed to his lead attorney, Jennifer Bonjean, who has pulled off a great show for these slightly over 4 weeks of the trial. In fact, Bonjean need not announce an appeal on these counts they lost. Knowing her well, we can be sure that an appeal is impending. She had earlier on announced that she and her team would fight each and every single count of the case, and looks like that's the game plan they have maintained all through, tackle each individual count separately. What a clear demonstration of experience. Now, even with the sentencing still pending, Bonjean has already announced Kelly is already preparing for the other pending trials against him and has shown much optimism about the same. It's easy to trust Bonjean because she promises and delivers. Everyone who has a keen, analytical eye can already read that R. Kelly will be a free man in no longer than 2 years. It's however unfortunate that an innocent man has had to endure all this time behind bars, thanks to the broken judicial system, while the actual guilty individuals are freely roaming the streets. I can't wait to see these appeals argued and done away with. Let's wait it out and see. That's all we had for you today. Please let us know in the comment section below, if you feel that this is just the beginning of R. Kelly's journey to freedom. We value your honest opinion. Thank you for watching LFN News, a production of LFN Media, giving you another view of issues at hand. To get notified whenever we post a new video, subscribe to this channel now and hit the notification icon. And remember to give us your comment on the subject matter below.